This is Course 2, Chapter 7, Lesson 5, Choosing an Appropriate Display. And I am Mrs. McCowan. Today's learning objective: students will construct and analyze histograms, stem and leaf plots, and circle graphs. Okay, let's copy this down in our notes. A butterfly park keeps a record of the number of families of butterflies they have and how many different species of butterfly there are in each family. Looking at our chart of the butterfly families, we have gossamer wing, skippers, swallowtails, whites, and sulfurs. So we need to answer these questions, question A, B, and C. Question A, each listed species is blank of the blank population. We need to fill in these blanks. The first blank we need to fill in is part of the whole population. Letter B. A blank shows how a set of data is divided into parts. And so, what graph would best display this? Well, would it be a line graph? Would it be a line plot? Would it be a bar graph? Would it be a histogram or a circle graph? My key word is divided into parts. So if I want to divide something into parts, that would be a circle graph. Letter C. A blank would show how many times a member of each butterfly family was observed. Well, if we want to know how many times it was observed, the best representation for that would be a bar graph. Depending on which question we want to answer would tell us which one would be better. So if we want to know about the parts, that would be a circle graph. If we want to show how many times they're each identified, that would be a bar graph. Question number 2. Which type of display should you use to show how many different species from 4 rose families there are in a garden? Well, looking at our chart, we have the rose families: English, hybrid teas, standard tree, miniature. We have the species in the garden. So my answer for this, a blank would show the total number of roses and allow the students to see the frequency. Well, thinking back to what shows frequency, I would have to say frequency would either be a bar graph or a histogram. And since we don't have enough categories, the best one would be, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so when we know about this, we know that we don't have enough categories for a histogram, so the answer would be a bar graph. Okay, now number 3, I want us to break down the types of graphs so that we know how to do this on our own for the future. So the different types of graphs we have are circle graph, bar graph, histogram, and line graph. A circle graph shows blank of a set of data. Well, it shows part of a set of data which relates to the whole. So we don't see everything, we see the parts of the whole. A bar graph, which is independent bars, not together, a bar graph shows categories of data and it compares the data. A histogram has bars connected into intervals. So it shows the frequency of the data within equal intervals. In a line graph, shows change over time and compares change over time. These are 4 different types of graphs, and they are appropriate to use at 4 different times. Question number 4. The table shows the number of visitors to the butterfly park during a 4-month period. Explain why each kind of display would best represent the data. So, let's look at the data. Which would best represent it? Well, we have months, so this is a category. We have the number of visitors, and looking at this, what would best represent this? Well, we have a 4-month period, so that's my whole. It's not a year, so it's not an entire complete set of data. It's only a brief period. So if we have something that's smaller and it's not a whole of a year, the best to describe this would be a circle graph. I apologize. I'm writing circle graph and I'm thinking bar graph. Go back to that first thought. It's a bar graph because I have, like I said, categories. So the best representation would be a bar graph. Do I have intervals? Are these intervals? Intervals would mean I have the numbers 1 to 3, 4 to 6. These are not numbers. These are categories. So categories makes this a bar graph because categories are used to make a bar graph. Okay, I'd like you to write a 3-sentence summary about what you have learned or reviewed with this lesson. Do you need extra help? You can go back and watch this video again. You can ask Mrs. McCowan a question, or you can come in the morning for extra tutoring. Thanks for watching.